do you give off this air of, I belong here, I have the right to be in this room, I have the right to speak? Or do you give off this air of, oh, I don't want to take up too much of your time? Yeah, what are the behaviors of confidence? They are common for every culture, every country, because that's what we assume. If someone is confident, we assume they are competent. What do I want? How do I get what I want? It applies also to the way you speak. How much space do you take up in time?
Hi and welcome to Humanising Finance with me, Krystle McGilvery. Here we get under the skin of money. We look at the cognitive, emotional and psychological factors that affect you and your money. Most importantly, we aim to leave you with at least one nugget you can walk away with after the episode. I am excited to bring to you Gosia Syta. She is a personal impact expert and founder of the communications consultancy Walk Your Talk. She's worked with existing and emerging leaders, helping them to communicate with confidence in meetings, presentations, sales pitch, you name it. Clients include BP, Ticketmaster, Thomson Reuters. She runs leadership, mentoring and professional development programs for their teams as well as startup founders. More specifically, and I think this is where I get really excited, she's passionate about teaching communication skills to women, speakers of English as a foreign language, and neurodivergent professionals and business owners like myself. Gosia Syta is also diagnosed with ADHD last year, so she's one of us. Gosia, I'm so excited to have you here. Welcome.
I'm so excited to be here. Thank you for inviting me, Krystle.
It's always a pleasure. Now, of course, given Gosia's amazing bio, we are talking about confidence today. Confidence and how important it is when it comes to you, whether it's increasing your pay at work, earning more through your business, and career progression overall, right? So I think I'm going to dive right in actually and start right at the beginning. And let's just get very clear about, what does confidence even mean?
Yes, confidence is something people think is one and done. So either you have it or you don't. For me, confidence is a behavior. It's what you do, not who you are. And it's also a decision you make. Because in my experience, I was trying to find out, what do I do to be more confident? Because clearly I wasn't born confident. Nobody is. And I was growing up in an environment that was not very conducive to people feeling very confident. I grew up in communism. People generally were not encouraged to stand out and be confident, right? So some people, they grow up in environments that support them, encourage them to take risks, try things out, learn, and that's how they give them feedback, praise them. That's how people become confident. And some of us have not grown up in this kind of an environment. I certainly did not. So I started thinking, okay, I don't have it here. How do I get it? What do you do to get confident? And for a long time, I thought this is how I'm going to get it. So top down, I'm going to think myself into being confident.
Yeah.
Didn't work. I don't know if you tried it, Krystle, but many people do. I did too. So then I discovered, or rather remembered, there is another way. I studied social psychology. And I was really intrigued by the body and mind connection. So I went back in my time of very little confidence, when I was just getting back to work after a long maternity leave. I went back to my psychology books and research and discovered the bottom-up way of getting more confidence. So acting as if you are confident already. And I discovered, what are the behaviors of confidence? They are common for every culture, every country, every animal even has projects the same signals of confidence. And I started using those behaviors, and at the beginning they didn't feel right. Because this is not who I am.
I can imagine.
Smaller. I don't take up so much space.
Sit over
But
here.
over time, these are habits, that you develop over time around how you carry yourself, whether or not you look at people, how much space you take up. These are just habits. And as with any other habit, you can unlearn those habits that don't serve you and learn new habits. And this is what I've done. Those new behaviors finally over time grew on me and became second nature. So confidence is what you do, not who you are.
I love that. And I think that's a really great start, because immediately that's showing people who don't feel confident or have been told that they don't look confident that there's nothing wrong with you. It's more you're just not exhibiting the signals or showing what people perceive as confident. And like you said, if you've not been raised or grown up in an environment where behaving in a certain way was encouraged or the norm, then in the wider community, those signals are not going to exist. But like you said, you can learn what they are and then do them. And like with anything, we're talking about change here. Like you said, behavior change is going to be uncomfortable because it's not the norm to start with. But over time, like when you started to walk, right? First, your legs were all a bit wobbly and it felt weird. But eventually, yeah, sure. It's normal.
And it's interesting that you don't learn those behaviors. People who are raised in families where that are very supportive, nurturing, they can observe their parents. If they exhibit those behaviors, they will copy those behaviors. In some families, like the royal family, they have codes of conduct, and they literally know how to stand, how to sit, how to eat your dinner, which utensils to use, and in which order. This is what it used to be taught in good families. You had like course books that told you how to be in the world to get the respect that everybody wants and everybody needs to.
You're
be
really
able to
touching on
succeed.
stuff here. You're really touching on, because even that example you just gave, I'm like, oh my gosh, I haven't actually spoken about this. But even that example, so single parent home, mum was always working, right? And I remember I dated this guy, and he came from a quite well-to-do family. And I remember sitting down, they ate dinner every Sunday together, and that was so unfamiliar to me. And everybody using a knife and fork in the right way. And I was like, oh my gosh, I don't know how to do this. So I literally spent the next few weeks teaching myself how to hold the knife and fork in the right way so I wouldn't be embarrassed at the dinner table. But you're right. If you're not raised to exhibit those signals, you don't know.
You
Simple.
don't know. And, exhibiting we were talking about confidence, and the expression of confidence is what in psychology is called displays of high status, right? And status is super important, because the more status you have, the more access you have to resources, right?
Yes.
The more options in life, better jobs,
Yes.
bigger choices in terms of who you hang out with,
Who you date, everything, yeah.
who you date, everything. This and we have a very clear picture of what high status looks like. In not just when we think status, many of us think things like the position in the organization, the car, the clothes. It's not just this. This is also, and a huge part of it is how you carry yourself. Do you give off this air of, I belong here, I have the right to be in this room, I have the right to speak? Or do you give off this air of, I don't want to take up too much of your time?
Thank you. Really good start. I'm like, yes. So if we kind of follow that lead then, in terms of someone being perceived as confident, can we translate this, and you touched on it briefly just now, can we translate this to career progression and maybe generating more income as a business owner? So how does confidence seep into those areas and start to influence it?
It's the beginning of everything. I run a lot of courses specifically for women, and they are different courses. I do run a course on confidence for women returning to work. I run courses around executive presence, networking, collaboration, and every course I run comes back to the same thing. Confidence. It's the beginning of everything, whether or not we give ourselves permissions to speak up in meetings, ask for a raise, ask for a promotion. We need to first have the confidence to speak up, and give ourselves permission to do so. It's the beginning of everything.
Take up space.
Take up space, yes.
Yeah, and this, it's funny because given, just thinking about the conversation we was having just now, and, the fact that it's funny, we're both doing a proposal right now, midway through several proposals, and, even it translates perfectly into our work. So me being self-employed and presenting myself in a certain way and communicating in a certain way, like you said, taking up physical space, people are going to see that actually she's of a good status standard. So in terms of the proposal I put forward and the way I articulate myself on that proposal, that then leads to me being able to charge more money. Or at work, like you're saying, doing talks, it then translates into them perceiving you in a certain way to then, give you a pay rise, etc. I think you had a good example last time about, was it me doing finance and talking about finance and being all unsure about, but if I think you put together a budget like this, no one will believe me, right?
People respond to what they see. And I remember when I first started trying on those behaviors of confidence, I noticed a huge change in how people related to me, in terms of how seriously they took me, the opportunities they gave me. And to give you a really simple example, I was once walking down Tooley Street in London Bridge. Very busy street, especially in the afternoon when everybody is coming out of their offices. And I was like, okay, let me try this confident walk that I read and unpicked in all the research, what it looks like, my, Barack Obama walk. Where I take up space, I look ahead, I look at people that are coming by me. And it was like a miracle. Once I started walking this way, and I was still the same person, people started giving me way. It's like Red Sea has parted. Because when you behave in this way that exudes confidence, and it's your flavor of confidence, it doesn't have to be this confidence that verges on arrogance. But if people feel like you behave in this way, you probably have the right to do so. So they will defer to you, and it changes the dynamic completely. And you can use those behaviors at work anytime and it's not to create a persona that is not you, but using those behaviors in moments that matter. When you're asking for a raise, when you're asking people to do a certain thing, your team to work on a certain project. This is when you need those tools, because when we are expected to comply, we need to hear this message in a certain way. And we talked about in our recording that that didn't go according to plan. We talked about, this is what we want from experts, from leaders. We want this confidence. We want the warmth as well, friendliness, but we want the confidence to be able to trust them. And if you went on a plane and you heard pilot saying, oh, so, okay, now today we are going to Barcelona, I think. I hope that's
I
where
would
everybody
cry.
wants to go. You would just jump off that plane very quickly, right?
Oh,
Because that's what we assume. If someone is confident, we assume they are competent. And when someone is not confident, we start questioning their competence. This is, by the way, something that con artists use, because we have such an instinctive response to this to the displays of confidence. We immediately are like, oh yeah, they're talking sense. They don't a lot of the time, and
they're just acting.
Sometimes they act to benefit themselves, but not us. So this is I love teaching it, because it's something that people can on the one hand people can apply to their lives, professional or personal, but also it's something that inoculates them against attempts at manipulation. Because people sometimes do it. They stare you down to get a yes, or to get compliance, and all those. Yeah, and these once you are aware, okay, this is what you are trying to do. I'm feeling really intimidated. Why am I feeling that? Oh yeah, that's the stare down. You are using it to make me feel small. This is really empowering.
It is, and it's funny you say that, because that's exactly how I apply the work I do. It's understand how you're influenced by marketeers, for example, to buy certain things, to bring out a certain emotion. You know, it's pink, Klarna's pink. You know, I'm not giving an opinion here, but it's pink for a reason. You know, you see the pink on the white background on the website. So yeah, I like that. And actually, I want to kind of just, could you highlight a couple of specific traits that people pick up and perceive as confident? So I think one you just said was staring you down, for example, the really strong eye contact. What can you list a couple others?
That would be, you know, this stare down is people sometimes people use to intimidate someone. So I wouldn't say stare down, but solid eye contact. Solid eye contact means I'm not afraid to look at you. I feel okay looking at you. We normally don't look at people 100% of the time. Research tells us it's between 60 and 70, because sometimes we look away to think about what to say next, or how, how do I respond to what you've just said?
Or retrieving information.
Yeah. But it's definitely solid eye contact. This is how we read confidence. And the next one that is really important is how much space you take up with your body. How do you stand? How do you sit? How do you move? Also, it applies also to the way you speak. How much space do you take up in time? Do you allow yourself to, when you speak in a meeting, to go through what you want to say in an unhurried way, without worrying that you are taking up other people's time? So taking up time, taking up space. Yeah. Well,
that is,
I can see
if you just
a light bulb.
Yeah, because, you know, and I'm sure you could list like 50,000 more, but even that one, right, on the last, you know, talking quickly, going back to what we spoke about earlier in terms of upbringing, and, you know, that's possibly linked to, are you questioning whether you deserve to be here? You know, you want to quickly get things done, get it out. Oh, I don't want to disturb you. I don't want to take up too much space verbally. You know, I don't want to inconvenience you. That's the complete opposite of being confident. Being confident where you are, what you're saying, who you're talking to, and what you're talking about. So yeah, that one really makes complete sense.
Yes, and you will see in an organization that the higher up people are, the slower they speak. Maybe not slower, but they are comfortable with silence, right? Yeah. They don't rush their words through, because they know people will wait what they have to say next.
That's it.
You know, rushing through your words often comes from this, oh, if I don't say things quickly, someone will butt in and take the floor away from me. To which I say, okay, that might happen first of all.
Yes.
But if you are concerned about that, pause in the middle of the sentence, because we are conditioned to look for the endings.
Yes.
We want closed loops.
Yes.
So when you start saying something, you want to hear how it all ends. It's the way stories work, films work, people work in general. So if you
I
are
see you just did it there as well. And it worked.
Pause in the middle of the sentence. Yeah. Yeah. What should I do? Pause in the middle of the sentence. Yeah. So this is the second one. Take up space.
I like that.
The third one would be your level of expressiveness. And Krystle, how difficult it is for us both.
Look at my face.
To tone down expressiveness, because we react in the moment based on the emotions that we are feeling, and sometimes it doesn't serve us. A lot of the time it does serve us, because people love the energy some people bring into the rooms. But sometimes there are words, there are messages that need to be said in a different kind of energy, with less expressiveness. And again, you will see this lower expressiveness in the boardrooms, in the Buckingham Palace. The more status, the more power people have, the less they move. Everything moves around them. People defer to them, and they are not so expressive or mobile. And this is again something that we look out for, and we notice when we come into a meeting. This will be one of the signals that will tell you, oh, this is the boss here. Takes up a lot of space, isn't rushed, and is quite still.
Yeah, it's funny, and so many things that you've touched on. Looking at my development, let's say, I can see where the changes have been made. Especially on the pausing part. That I remember when I learned about that, and it also changes how you feel. When you pause when you're talking, it helps you calm down, and it also reconfirms that what you're saying is of value, and people do want to listen because they wait in that pause. So it's a nice thing to practice. And just as you touched on it, and actually I wanted to lead here, of course, when we talk about ADHD, right? And some of those suggestions you made, and actually autism as well, and I'm sure other types of neurodivergence, because you mentioned, like you said, looking at people, which people who are neurodivergent, especially autism, don't like the eye contact. Physical space, pausing, talking fast, full of excitement. They're typical traits of some neurodivergent conditions. So we've had this conversation many times over, but can we talk about the balance and how to fine tune when to be expressive and allow yourself to, and how do you do that without not feeling authentic, which I think is a really hot topic conversation and question right now, as people are realizing their neurodivergence and embracing it, but then, oh, I still shouldn't put it in this environment?
Let me start with a story, and then I will give you a tip.
Yes.
A few months ago, I was running a session for local business owners around pitching. And I presented on how nonverbal signals are important for the impression we make on potential investors. And one person started questioning it and said, "Oh, it's all about the substance, not the style. I don't want to fake anything." And then before I had a chance to respond to that, a woman piped in and said, "You know what? I'm autistic, and it's wild the difference it makes to how you present your content. I present my content to one group in the way that I normally present, being myself, so not looking at people, not being very expressive, and then present the same content to another group, trying to do the neurotypical thing, so being expressive, looking at people, and it's doing the human thing. That's what she said, doing the human thing. And it's amazing the difference it makes and how my message goes down. So it is a balance between you expressing yourself and you getting what you want out of the situation. So my tip is, first of all, before you go into a meeting, before you start pitching in front of a potential client, ask yourself, what's your objective in this? What do you want to get out of it? And what do you need to do? How do you need to show up to get what you want? It's always a balance between those two things. And I would say, we play different roles in life, first of all. So we show up in different ways in different situations. And even within the same situation, you will not be only one way, right? When you pitch in front of potential investors or whoever it is, when you tell a story, you will be in your right to be really expressive, because this is how we tell stories. But then you can go on to describing, okay, this is my business model. This is how it's going to work. You can go into this more high status, confident persona, because this is what you want to land with people. This is what's important for them. This is what will get you what you want.
I like that. And I think that is the crux of it for me. And that gave me the light bulb moment in deciding what this situation, conversation, whatever it is, what's the aim? What am I trying to achieve here? And also accepting that I have different sides. There's different sides to me. The Krystle who plays with her nieces and nephews in the front room, rolls on the floor, that does not need to be anywhere in the peripheral when I'm trying to help somebody with their personal finances. That should not be there. If we're...
I think that was one of the biggest challenges for me, and something that I realized very late in my life. You teach people how to treat you, as I think Maya Angelou has said. And if you bring this, rolling on the floor with your nephew's persona to a meeting, it won't serve you well. And it's hard as it is, you need to be able to be more flexible and more reflective. Okay, what is this situation? Who is in the room? Who am I in this situation? What am I trying to achieve? And what do I do? What do I say? How do I behave to get what I want? I think I told you once about those actors' questions. Did I? The actors' questions is in method acting. Actors before they get into a scene, they need to remind themselves what the scene is about, because when they make a movie, it's all over the place. They don't take it from the beginning till the end, but
yes, of course,
actors jump in different moments. Same with the theater. For when people are rehearsing, they ask themselves, okay, who am I? What do I want? How do I get what I want? And 4 other questions. But these are really good questions to ask yourself before you are about to do something really important. Ask for a raise or a promotion. Deliver a pitch. Have a conversation with your boss or a client. Okay, what's the situation? Who am I in this situation, and what am I trying to achieve, and what do I do? How do I show up to achieve it?
Thank you. I like that. Really clear, really easy to
ADHD
use that,
friendly.
I think. ADHD friendly. And I think what's important as well is the fact you're reframing it. You're reframing the different characters that we can portray in, and taking away the inauthenticity, which I think is the default, oh, I'm not being the true me. But actually you are. There's just different sides to you. And I think this quite nicely leads on. Oh, go ahead.
I think it's about playing with those two sides, the confident professional you and the more playful you, because both qualities are really important as research tells us. The confidence and the connection are equally important, and actually you should lead with the connection, because this is how we tick. When we become part of a group, we want to be included. So this connection is really important, and we want people to like and trust us. And once we are in the group, we want to get ahead and go up. So this is where this confidence and status and authority comes in. And yeah, don't create this persona for work. Bring your personality with you to work, but play with those two elements, increasing one or the other depending on the situation you are in.
Thank you. And I'd love to kind of dive into another area of your work. So about you being a non-native speaker, right? And the fact that you support others who are also non-native speakers. Could we talk a bit about some of the biases that they experience and how they can overcome them?
There is a bias that we have about people who speak with an accent, whether this accent is foreign or regional, that they are less smart. That's because this is our way of dealing with the cognitive dissonance. We find it harder to understand and follow people who speak with an accent, and that's proven. It takes more time, more effort to process a message that is spoken out with a foreign or regional accent. So obviously, if we find it hard to process, we don't blame ourselves, we blame the other person. It's not that we we have not developed the skill of understanding foreign accents. It's about them. They are clearly not as smart.
When you break it down like that, that's so funny.
It is, but this is something that many people don't feel confident talking about, because it is a big issue. I know in the UK with dialects and how people sound, and it's only been recently that people with non-standard accents are seen and heard in the media, right? As presenters, program hosts, and so on and so forth. But this is part of this, and the other part of this is foreign accents, and there are so many of those. Especially living in London, it's you come across people with foreign accents a lot of the time. So this is the bias other people have. And the thing that makes it difficult for non-native English speakers is the lack of, we're going back to confidence, right? Is the lack of confidence, because there is always this niggling feeling at the back of your head. I don't think it goes away completely, ever. That, okay, I sound so much smarter, so much funnier in Polish than I do in English. This is the thought that people are always,
so
okay, I could make myself so much clearer, so much smarter if I was speaking in my own language, and this makes people question themselves. Oh, will people listen to what I have to say? Is what I have to say really important for people to listen to? And to that, I always say, okay, if you doubt yourself whether the content you're bringing to the table is important enough for people to hear in this foreign accent, go and watch some TED Talks that are delivered by people who have English as a second language. You will notice the accent, and it might upset you at the beginning. It's like, recently I went to a yoga class, and there was a Polish guy teaching the yoga class. I was like, oh my God. He was super articulate, but the accent he had, oh my God. So But after a while, it's like, oh my God, this is so much value.
You ignore
right?
the accent, right? You pay attention to what you're getting. Yes.
You get past this of this is annoying. I can't really understand it. What did he say? But after 5 minutes, I'm like, okay, he is an amazing yoga teacher. I'm going to listen to what he has to say. And I'm actually going back to that yoga class next week.
He sounds good.
So, if you don't have a Polish yoga teacher, go on YouTube and listen to, I don't know, Esther Perel. I love Esther Perel. She's a couples therapist, and she has a very strong accent, but the things she says make you forget about the accent after a couple of minutes.
It's such a good point. You're right. And I see it all the time. You assume that if someone has a different accent, and I just like the fact that you started with, it's actually because we struggle with the comprehension of a different sound, the problem's with us. And I'm sure people who've traveled a lot and have spoken and been around a lot of different cultures and languages, I guess it's less of an issue for them because they're more familiar. And it's literally a muscle, right? We're talking about exercising a part of your brain that understands, comprehends, and processes. So what would you say then for someone who is a non-native speaker? What tips would you give them to work through those, I guess, lack of confidence when it comes to them speaking and how they believe they're perceived?
Yeah, first of all, go listen to someone who gives a lot of value in an accented English and see what it feels like to be on the receiving end of this. Number 2 would be, speak up in meetings. I know there are so many non-native English speakers who question themselves, who have a really good value to add to meetings, to projects, but they never say anything because they question themselves. They lack the confidence. The more you speak, the less nervous you will be. And the more people will see you and appreciate you in the company. If you are really feeling insecure and cannot make yourself to speak up, ask someone who wishes you well on your team to ask you a question in a meeting. And ask you because you have expertise that people can call upon. So ask them if they, something that they say or speak about includes the area you specialize in. Ask them to ask you a question, get you on board.
Yeah. And do you know what? Just on that point, that makes me think of the whole conversation about confidence. We talk about having a group of people that support you and encourage you. That's effectively what you're saying with a very, very specific task. That's a really good point. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, I call it community confidence. Sometimes we lack this confidence and we need people around us to boost us up. Like we are sometimes are having conversations around, pricing, right? Business owners, that we do it a lot with our peers. How do I price it? Can I really ask for so much? Are you sure? And you don't have this confidence in you, but you can reach out. That's what I used to do all the time. I still do it sometimes when I want to name a really big price. I will call people up, of people who I know charge this much, and I will have a conversation. And after this conversation, I have this confidence to ask for what I'm offering is worth. If you don't have this confidence, going back to how does this confidence apply in at work and in business, if you don't name your price with confidence, people will sense very quickly, oh, it's open for discussion, so let's negotiate. There's nothing wrong about negotiating, but
it's a tactic.
There's nothing wrong about naming the right price for yourself either. And this has to be delivered with confidence, meaning not too quickly and not going down at the end of, okay, so for this talk, I charge £2,000. And our voice drops down because we are not sure. Carry this confidence through. We often start with with unshakable confidence, and then when it comes to delivering the price tag, our voice gets a little bit softer.
We've got to say it with bass. Say the price with bass. £10,000. That is the price. Full stop.
Yeah.
Thank you, Gosia. Thank you so much. You've given so much value today, and I'm really grateful.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure, as it always is, to have a chat with you, Krystle.
Could you let people know kind of what you do in terms of your work and how they can work with you effectively, and then where they can find you?
I run leadership and mentoring programs for existing and aspiring leaders, especially in the industries like tech, law, banking, and finance. And I teach people how to speak with confidence, how to show up more boldly in meetings, in presentations, in conversations with clients. I help them to speak up, stand out, and succeed at whatever it is that they do. I hang out mainly on LinkedIn as Gosia Syta. And you can also find me on my website, timetowalkyourtalk.com. I also do corporate coaching for high potential women, mostly. This is something that also started bringing me a lot of joy. For most of my career, I've been delivering one-to-many, and over the last year, I started doing one-to-one, which is super rewarding because progress is super fast when you can focus on people's specific needs.
Yes, and I can imagine how impactful that is. And I remember speaking to you about that a while ago and doing more group. Well, you was doing a lot of group, and actually the one-to-one stuff. Yeah, I mean, and I'm the opposite, right? I started with the one-to-one, and now I've gone into groups and stuff, and it's just lovely to see the difference in the impact. So guys, check her out, give her a follow. I'm going to obviously put all of the handles underneath so you can see her work and maybe work with her. Again, Gosia, thank you for joining me. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you, Krystle.